Built by the Spanish in 1718, the mission San Antonio de Guerrero, later named the Alamo, was a Roman Catholic missionary used to educate and convert Native Americans to the Roman Catholic Church. But after conflicts from land rights between Texas and Mexico, the missionary was later in 1744 converted into a makeshift fortress occupied over the years by both Mexican and Texan forces. The Alamo got its name from San Carlos de Parras's troops, who were the first to take up shelter and fortify the missionary. The men named the chapel the Alamo after their hometown, Alamo de Parras, Colua. The Mexicans held control until December of 1835, when General Martin Prefecto de Cos surrendered to the Texan army following the siege of Bexar, the nearby town. After the battle, a small number of Texan soldiers occupied the Alamo due to the wishes of the Texan army commander, General Sam Houston. Houston, hearing wind of advancing Mexican forces, did not believe that the Texan army had the numbers to compete with the Mexican forces. So he ordered a friend, Jim Bowie, to destroy the makeshift fort because of its strategic military position to the Mexicans, and bring back the 18 pieces of artillery, including one 18-pounder cannon left by the retreating Mexican forces. With 30 volunteer fighters to aid the already 104 men within the walls of the fortress, Bowie arrived in San Antonio on January 19, 1836. Upon arrival, Bowie instead fortified the missionary with the help of the Alamo's leading commander, James C. Neal. After the men had a vote of whether to decide to stay and defend the Alamo or decide it was a worthless cause. During the fortifications, Davy Crockett and 12 of his men arrived to aid the fight. Bowie, using his fame and Spanish fluency, received information from the people of San Antonio about the advancements of Mexican troops with estimates of 4,500 strong. On February 3rd, Lieutenant Colonel William B. Travis arrived and relieved Neal of his post. On February 23rd, General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna marched into San Antonio with an army of 1,500 Mexican soldiers. His aim to retake the Alamo, then retake Texas. Every night at dusk, starting February 24th, Santa Anna had his military band play El de Guaya, meaning cutthroat, and raise a blood-red flag signifying no quarter, meaning no prisoners kept alive. Shortly after, his men would send a cannon volley into the walls of the Alamo. After 11 days, the bombardment stopped, giving the Texans a chance to sleep. This is when Santa Anna finally made his move in the early morning of March 6, 1836. Having his top generals, Cos, Duque, Romero, and Morales, take troops and flank all sides of the 4.5-acre complex. Taking out the sentinels around the outside walls allowed Santa Anna's troops to get within musket range of the wall. Due to new recruits, poor training, and the calm military strategy, many Mexican men were mowed down by their own troops firing blindly ahead, hitting the front rows from behind. Between that and the Texans firing anything from nails to door hinges from their cannons, making them like huge shotguns, made the Mexican forces fall rapidly. Colonel Travis, while leaning over the walls to shoot down at the advancing troops, was hit in the head by a musket ball, being one of the first Texans to die. As the battle raged, the troops all started to shift to a weak spot in the north wall. In a panic, Santa Anna sent an additional 400 reserve troops in on the same location. Eventually, the Mexicans came too fast, and the Texans could not reload their weapons, and the walls were quickly overrun. Once the walls were breached, the Mexicans flooded in, and the Texans retreated to the inner buildings of the complex. Davy Crockett and his men, having no ammo or no time to reload, used their rifles as clubs and fought till death. Jim Bowie, bedridden due to typhoid pneumonia, went down back-braced against the wall, firing his pistols at the troops entering his doorway. As the last of the men within the interior buildings were killed, the Mexican forces once again took control of the missionary. In all, the Alamo's forces numbered around 185 men. The death toll was immense for Santa Anna's. The number of casualties came in between 400 and 600 men. To honor the men who fought to the death within the walls of the Alamo, Sam Houston defeated Santa Anna's troops and thus ended the Mexican-American War. The Texans took Santa Anna by surprise, taking under 20 minutes to defeat his troops. Witnesses stated that throughout the battle, many cries of "Remember the Alamo" were heard from Texans as they charged the fleeing Mexican army. The battle occurred on April 21, 1836. The Alamo was the main turning point on the road to victory for the Texan forces. Even though it was a devastating loss to the Texan army, it broke the back of Santa Anna's forces, causing casualties to nearly one-third of the men who were at San Antonio that cold winter morning. Also, it gave the Texans' forces a bigger reason to fight. They wanted to honor and avenge their fallen brothers at the Alamo.